Irozwanath Kraslov is an ascetic, a reformer of society, an organizer of monasteries. His tetrarchs are Igainarth, Alwazdarai, Visvabhaktai, Dakarava. Together with him, they took part in meditations, reforming social, political and economic foundations for a greater optimization of life and the development of civilization and man. By this time, Sanderwick had prepared 16 separate groups with their leaders in his order. Sandervich Praslov, together with Irozwanath Kraslov, created 16 separate orders on the basis of his order. Irozwanath Kraslov and Sanderwick Praslov placed them in the surrounding area so that they could coordinate efforts between themselves and other orders. A castle was created for each of these orders, and an area of responsibility and collection was established. Irozwanath Kraslov also created 9 more orders that were entrusted to teach Sandervich Praslov. The new castle was granted to the Order of the Flaming Fists. 27 orders received new fortresses, and more than 50 orders received assistance in the reconstruction of their temples. With his meditations, Irozwanath Kraslov averted droughts, landslides and other problems. Ruling for more than 80 years, he avoided major wars, blessed those who could prevent them with pinpoint strikes. Irozwanath Kraslov created 12 sacred calendar ornaments, and 9 tangas of power. Radagast Praslov is a brave warrior, ascetic, and writer of the Vedas. Radagast Praslov established 2 tetrarchies, one dealing with the internal and the other with the external affairs of the state. The Oktarchs were subordinate to Sandervich Praslov, who was a Mag-Amantry under the Grand Duke. Radagast Praslov suppressed uprisings and defeated enemies. He performed powerful rituals, meditations, austerities and sacrifices. Radagast Praslov wrote 6 Vedas in which he collected and organized the spiritual and managerial experience of his ancestors. The Veda of the Ministry of Ra, the Veda of Divine Knowledge, the Veda of Sacred Power, the Veda of the Sovereign, the Veda of War, the Veda of Farming. These are the writings presented by Radagast Praslov to his descendants. Gerit Koroslov is a wise man, the organizer of 18 monasteries along the Carpathian Mountains. He was subordinate to the Oktarch, who helped him in the management of the state. These are the names of the glorious Oktarchs: Dasanath, Ulvasari, Istapavana, Gayurana, Tavar, Vilhad, Iramanri, Dravinar, Glaguptist. He was very wise and righteous. He learned and announced ancient knowledge, introducing them into life. He organized 18 monasteries along the Carpathian Mountains. He also reconstructed ancient monasteries and helped the Appanage princes and monastic lords to build new monasteries. He connected 18 monasteries by roads, in a circle and among themselves. In the very center, he wanted to build a fortified city, which in the future would have to become the capital. At the same time, the villains came and began to wreak havoc, violence and death on the shores of the distant sea, beyond the mountains and deserts to the south and east of the Ural Mountains. There, protecting the innocent, he defeated the evil demons, but they also injured him, and did not take him to the Oktarchi faithful. They shaved their heads and went, and became monks and died in the battles of others, for the holy homeland. Charamapatai Trislav is the builder of Chargrad. Arsene Trislav was the son of Gerit Koroslov Jr. His elder brothers went to the lands of their father's death and fought, and ruled there. Having built 12 fortified city-states, they gave order to lands far away for centuries, while their descendants were alive. The younger Arsene Trislav grew up without his father, but his father was replaced by Ramang Tsar of Radath. At the age of 16, he surpassed the power of the wizards of Rat City, and the wizards of the surrounding countries. They called him Charasans then, and having received great honors from the people and the boyars, he ordered to build defensive ramparts around the city of Stolny and connect them with underground passages. With the power of magic, he gave instructions to the minds of every builder. This was how the ramparts were arranged, which no army of that time could have overcome. He raised ramparts and palisades on the lands from the Rhine Delta to the Danube Delta, the village that arose around the monastery created by his ancestors. He built a new city, a mighty city, and called it Magrid, ordering wizards to gather there and comprehend the power. As the best of the princes and magicians, he was named Spans or Saint Charamapatai Trislav Gaiksaravich, and his city became known as the mighty Chargrad. Yarkai Sudislav is the organizer of courts and the creator of codes of laws and rules. Vidian Radoslav is a builder of schools and monasteries above the Alps. Barakai Daraslav is the drainer of 40 swamps of Polsi, the winner of hundreds of demons, the destroyer of 2 danavi cities. Vairākai Vedaslav is a holy ascetic prince. 17,498 Radagast is the conqueror of the demons of the south, and the holy princess of Kalyavedia, who did not eat any food except water and 1 oprisna per year. 17,411 Iskabe Dadhuslav is the creator of the codes of laws, the author of 1,000 rictus, and the most pious Vasukansha. 17,380 Yasistar Bogoslav, ascetic, ruler, ascetic and compiler of commentaries on the 9 Vedas, and Asistavrslava, who repeated 99 rounds of Mangari per day. 17,241 years before 1990 AD, Bogtikin Mitroslav was born, the ruler who defended the Slavs from the Donavs, and Vidyanta Yasislava, the holy wisest ascetic, Kalyavani Radoslava, the holy wisest ascetic. Next, I present pieces of ancient translated texts from the Codex, Chronicles of the Burnt Offering War, Exploits of the Son of God Janai, the War for the Holy Capital, Radagast and SagaRA, which exist in my view as fragments of the original chronicle text of runic writing in the Proto-Slavic language. Like other unique Vedic writings that I refer to in my works, these are the Vedic writings of the Raman tradition, from the repository of Rai and Pravislav. As Radoslav adapted these passages as best he could, using a modern interpretation of ancient terminology, or an adaptation of ancient terms for a modern reader, and in some places put intermediate plot bundles that were initially absent from these texts, known to me from other texts telling about these events. In some places, the text has undergone minimal changes, and is conducted on behalf of the ancient chronicler, with instructions corresponding to the realities of his time. In subsequent works, it will be possible to sort everything out by components, separately cite the ancient text, separately later comments, and separately your own reflections on these events. Now I set myself the task not to bring all aspects of ancient texts, and not categorically prove their existence, but only to acquaint readers with this topic, this layer of events, the ancient Slavic Vedic heritage. Let us glorify the holy name of the Father of God, the holy Prince Bogtikin Mitroslav, comprehending its sacred meaning, Miroslav, or more simply Miroslav, from fa plus ra, plus Slav equals thinking, meta, in Old Slavonic and Greek, plus the name of the Most High plus the process of glorification. There is an ancient Greek image of the personification of divine thought, metis, also metis, other Greek, mutoiota thought, wisdom. In ancient Greek mythology, the goddess is the personification of wisdom. Acusalai has her daughter Erebus and Nukta, the aunt, or cousin, and tutor of Zeus, sheltered from Kronos in Crete. In the Vedic tradition, this is one of the manifestations of joy, and the name Ara, Mitra in those days meant thinking Ara, a thinker, a creator of thoughts. Mitroslav, praising the thoughts of Ara, praising Ara with his thoughts, praising the wisdom of Ara. Bogtikin is incorrectly interpreted as a ticking god, even though there are 2 roots here. The Danav prince once called SagaR, the son of the god of flight, but this looks more like enemy propaganda, and an attempt to offend than the true etymology. Bogtik is yang, where Bogtika is the process of spiritual development, literally, divine rapid movement, a synonym for the Indian term bhakti. Yang is consciousness, the focus of attention of the spark. Yang is also the ending of names and words in the masculine gender, with the same meaning of consciousness. Bogtikin is a consciousness that follows the path of spiritual development, self-awareness. Bhakti, Sanskrit, ist, bhakti, is the orientation of consciousness, loyalty, devotion and love of God. In Indian Vedic and post-Vedic philosophy and religions derived from the Vedas, bhakti is described as a pure loving relationship between a devotee called a bhakta and God in his various forms and manifestations. In Hinduism, the practice of bhakti or bhakti yoga allows one to find unity with God and thereby liberate the soul from the cycles of birth and death. Bhakti can be defined as a discipline that eliminates the egoism of the I and the limitations of the mind. In the Indian tradition, bhaktas are spoken of as those who are inseparable from God, avivekta. The feelings of a bhakta are directed towards God at all times, and in all circumstances or actions. Bhakti does not involve acquiring or profiting from the love of God. Thus, bhakti is defined as the love of God, unencumbered by desires. It is believed that meditations, mantras and other practices are auxiliary tools necessary for the cultivation of true spiritual awareness. Bhakti. Pure bhakti is considered to be where love is manifested for the sake of God Himself, and devotion consists of a combination of love and selfless service. In the final state, bhakti describes a state of mind when a person does not have any other existence separate from God. Thus, bhakti represents a complete spiritual concentration of the human consciousness on the ideal to which it aspires. This most worthy prince was born surrounded by all favorable signs, and accepted the gracious disposition of the gods and heavenly bodies. In his youth, before the reign of Bhaktiyan, Mitroslav carried out austerities, and was allowed into the depths of the Urals, where he forged a unique weapon, a duckopher in a lava smithy created by the forefather Radoslav. Before that, he repelled the attack of the Danavas, and during these battles, 2 ancient swords that his father gave him broke, as well as the one-sided glaive that his maternal grandfather, Prince Ankrasai Gerajavsky, gave him broke. Of the 3 ancient weapons, Bhaktiyan Mitroslav decided to create a unique 2-sided glaive, which he saw while meditating on Ra. He had a vision of Ra himself fighting with a unique 2-sided weapon in flames. Bhaktiyan Mitroslav was fascinated by this vision, and decided to create one for himself. After 40 days of fasting, Bhaktiyan Mitroslav meditated chanting the holy names of Ra, and melted ancient weapons. But on the 9th day of the feat, Bhaktiyan Mitroslav forged a unique double-sided glaive that absorbed the power of previous weapons, and the mystical power of the Urals. Magarkans Bhaktiyan Mitroslav called this similar weapon the ancient word duckopher, as in ancient times, the glaive of Ramadaya was called, which he wisely granted to Kornet Premislavich the brave saint, before his elevation in the mortal war against the Prince of Darkness, aboard the ship of the Prince of Darkness. The exact translation of the word duckopher is not known, but given some ancient spellings and existing interpretations, I suggest the following options. Duckopher, the spirit of supports, spiritual support. Duckopher, the spirit of Apir, is a weapon of spiritual resistance. Duckopher, Duckopher, spiritual flame, spiritual heat.